Tyler Farnsworth, an influencer strategist from Sitewire. My name is Mike Riding. I'm covering for McKay Allen on today's webinar series. Just want to remind you all of a couple housekeeping things. First, as you can see here, if you'd like to tweet about this webinar, tweet at #influencermarketing. You can also use the hashtag LMCwebinar. That'll work as well, so we can all be connected and throw out our favorite points there. So we're excited to have Tyler Farnsworth with us today. Tyler is a digital marketing and influencer marketing specialist. He's a pro in this. Tyler, some of his background, he was involved in the launch of BYU TV's greatest watch show, the most watched show in BYU TV's history, which is huge. He also participated in a Kroger campaign with 2.2 million impressions. And he's the leader of the BOLO conference, which is one of the most highly respected digital marketing conferences in the country. So we are super excited to have Tyler with us today. And with that, Tyler, I'll turn the time over to you. Oh, I'm sorry, one more housekeeping item. If you have questions, please feel free to ask questions. And if they're relevant, if we need to jump into the webinar and ask Tyler at that point, I'll go ahead and do it. Otherwise, we will get to the questions at the end. But we love questions. And please go ahead and ask questions in the question pane of the GoToWebinar dashboard. So with that, Tyler, take it away.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mike. And definitely like to welcome everybody today, whether it's a good morning or good afternoon to you, wherever you are. Hopefully you're excited about what we have to chat about today. So as Mike said, my name is Tyler Farnsworth, and I lead the influencer marketing team here at Sitewire. I am nowhere near as cool as my photo makes me look, but I'm excited to be chatting with you today. Sitewire is a customer experience agency based here in Tempe, Arizona, and we represent various national clients across all different kinds of verticals. And we've been able to do some really unique things in working with influencers to help our clients achieve their goals. And so today we'll be talking a little bit about many of those things, about what influencer marketing is, how it can impact your brand or your client's brand, and really just some of the best practices out there. So we'll be sharing some case studies of some people who are doing a great job with it, as well as talking about some best practices to help you launch some influencer marketing efforts. So I wanted to start by looking at your marketing challenges. Ultimately, that's where everything starts. You need to identify, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to go out there and add something new to my tool belt? And as I thought through this, there are various things that influencer marketing can help solve, or different marketing challenges that influencer marketing helps solve. But some of the key things that I was looking at are, if you're launching a new brand or product line, if you want to support an integrated campaign or other elements of a TV, or radio, or other online or social campaign, if you want to generate additional or more qualified leads, you want to increase brand awareness, improve brand perception, grow your social audiences, cultivate brand advocacy. So really help cultivate a group of folks who love your brand, who are true advocates for your brand. Crisis management. There's a whole host of things that key stakeholders or key influencers can help in managing crisis situations. And then also just increasing the share of voice that your brand or your client's brand has, and how many social mentions are out there. So influencer marketing can help solve a lot of these challenges that you may currently have or may have in the future, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. You saw that the title of this webinar talked about the new rules of PR, and I remember seeing one of the first bullet points was forget everything you knew about PR, and I didn't write that, and when I saw that I said, well, that's not what I'm going to try to talk about. Certainly the PR folks out there are outstanding individuals, and the things that I'm talking about today definitely stem from the PR world in a huge way. Traditional PR is significantly different today than it was several years ago. With the rise of the social sphere, we've seen things become significantly more stratified, and barriers of entry have lowered, and that's where influencer marketing really comes to play. So I didn't want to offend any of the PR folks in here. Y'all do great work, and this just builds upon that. So I want to start with talking about celebrity. So over the past several years, quite often people look up to celebrities. They see what they do, what they wear, how they act, and they look up to these folks. And throughout the years, these individuals have come from various areas, from politics, from cinema or Hollywood, from the world of sports, and nowadays that has changed, right? And these two lovely ladies are an example of the new era or the new age of celebrity. Certainly there are still folks from the world of cinema and from the world of sports, but then you have this new age of celebrity that are the what we are calling the famous for being famous, among other things. And these individuals have huge audiences, huge social audiences. And so, from face value, it looks like, hey, these would be great people to get my brand in front of. But what we're really going to look at today is that simply audience isn't always the best metric to look at. But brands throughout the years have seen these celebrities that have significant followings, that have huge audiences, and have said, hey, let's partner with them. Let's have them be the face of our brand. Let's have them be our celebrity influencer, if you will. And so these brands throughout the years have partnered with these folks in order to help try to move their brands forward. So from this, we obviously know that audience equals influence, right? Well, what we truly know is that audience does not equal influence. That simply because a celebrity has a huge following, it doesn't mean that they actually influence anybody's thought. Certainly they may influence a small portion, but there's a heck of a lot of spillover with those groups. So that we can take from that celebrity does not necessarily equal influence either. In fact, there's been numerous studies out there that show that celebrity endorsements and advertising are almost always a waste of money. And so that's not the realm or the route that we're recommending for the majority of our clients today. The individuals that we recommend our clients working with are the new type of influencer. And these individuals are found here. They're found across the social sphere. They're found in across these various networks. They're found in user groups. They're found in forums. They're found on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest, all over the place. The social space has created an immense amount of individuals who now have audience, but they have a lot. Their audience are significantly more engaged. They're significantly more focused than the audiences of celebrities of old. And so this is where we win today, are in these smaller audiences, but more focused and key audiences. Individual Jay Baer, who many of you may know and have read, he talks about this quite a bit. And this quote here from him, he says, what's going to influence more behavior, a tepid vote of confidence from online celebrity, or overwhelming statements of support from dozens, hundreds, or thousands of actual customers who have experience with the product over the long haul? And I love looking at that and thinking about it from that perspective. You might have the Kim Kardashian of the world who's going to come out and say something about your brand, but that's not really what drives behavior. What drives significant behavior are the people who are seen as peers, the people who they follow on a day-to-day basis, the people who they're excited about, the people who they think, who your customers think have value. So looking from that, what we want to talk about is what the definition of influencer marketing is. And we all know if it's on Wikipedia, then it must be true, right? And when we first started hearing about this, you saw the rise of influencer marketing starting in a big way over the last few years, and it's become a fairly significant buzzword. And from that, a buzzword typically implies that, hey, it may be a flash in the pan, it may be something everyone's really excited about and talking about, but it doesn't really drive true action. But what we've seen is that partnering with influential people has driven significant results and significant positive results. And so going into a little bit of definition, influencer marketing is the practice of identifying and building relationships with individuals who have the power to affect the thoughts, opinions, and purchase decisions of a target audience of buyers. really keying in on that purchase decisions element is a critical piece. What we're looking at are finding the individuals that your customers care about. So that's where influencer marketing really starts, is in identification. First of all, looking at who do my customers follow? Who do my customers care about? And obviously that starts with even a basic understanding of who your customers are and having a good understanding of that persona. But then finding the individuals that they care about, the blogs that they read, the social influencers that they follow, and aligning yourselves with them. And then also that second bullet down there says, influencer marketing can be a standalone effort or as a method to amplify other marketing efforts. And we've seen this here at Sitewire as we've been working with our clients, that quite often we will use influencers to help amplify the message of our other social efforts. So we use them as part of our content strategy. We use them to help amplify the rest of the campaign that's happening, whether it's on TV or print or on the social sphere. With that, in that same vein, it could also be a standalone effort. If you're doing a new product launch that you want to really initially seed out to key influencers, that can be the basis or the big structure of your campaign. So it's fairly versatile with what you can do. So now I just want to transition to influencers. So who are these folks? Where are they and who are they? We've already talked a little bit about where they live, but these are individuals who have greater than average reach. So they have to have audience. They can't just be on the standard or the average there. They're typically very well connected. They know individuals. People care about who they are. They're able to impact buying behavior. So what they say has value. People see them as credible. They're typically trend spotters or setters. They see what's coming. The things that they do, people emulate. They inspire action. What they do, other people follow. And they're people, not organizations. And so this is a key point that I want to drive home, is that the influencers we work with are people, not companies. So the reality behind that, the reasoning behind that, is because we understand that people work with people, and there's a lot more authenticity when it's an individual we're working with. Also, influencers act as filters or gateways for the audience. In today's world, there are so many marketing messages that are hitting people each day that we know that there's just an immense amount of noise. And so our customers look to the influencers they follow as that filter, or that gateway, to say, hey, what should I really care about? I have all these brands that are hitting me each day with banner ads and all kinds of things. What should I really be caring about? And that's where influencers really play. So this is just a brief look at people that we've identified for a couple of our clients that are outstanding influencers. These are YouTubers, these are Instagrammers, these are bloggers for a very specific client of ours who wanted to do some great things. So these people are all over the place. To bring it back down and just look at a couple of folks that we've recently worked with, to give you an example, one of them was a food blogger, Our Best Bites. They have a very large audience, very engaged audience, and that's what's key. Is not just audience size, like I was talking about earlier. Audience size is one of the lower metrics we look at. Obviously, they need to have audience, but what we care about is how engaged their audience is. How does their audience see them as a peer? Does their audience see them as credible and relevant? So that was on the blogger side. Over on the Pinterest side, this individual, Alexandra, she has 900,000 followers on Pinterest. So there are definitely a lot of individuals who have more followers than her, but she is ranked as one of the top power influencers on Pinterest because of how much her audience engages with her pins. So her pins get significantly more repins than a lot of other Pinterest influencers out there. So I want to do a use scenario here, as we've been talking about how the fact that audience doesn't equal advocacy. One of the brands that we work with is Simple Truth. And Simple Truth focuses on creating products that are simple, that are free from 101 specific ingredients that people don't like. So it keeps it a little bit more on the whole food side. So you look at this, and I bring up Mr. Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is a great person. He has 10.5 million followers on Twitter. But obviously, this isn't a guy we would partner with to promote a brand like Simple Truth. Why? Because his audience what he's known for is technology, is computer systems. So the amount of his audience who would actually care about Simple Truth, or who would care about him talking about a brand like Simple Truth, is very, very small. And individuals that we would partner with would be individuals like these folks. So individuals that are health bloggers or food bloggers or healthy focused Instagrammers, who their audiences, a very high percentage of their audience would care about this product and sees them as a credible source. So that's just a real quick use scenario of the type of brand we would work with, how we would identify the right kind of influencer, and then start putting together a campaign around that. So looking at Social Media Examiner talked about this. They said, when you're working with influencers, remember that having a large social media following doesn't give you influence, it simply gives you audience. You need to look for influencers who have close ties to their community, bloggers who are relevant for your brand, even if they don't have worldwide fame. So you can't be afraid of working with influencers who have smaller audience, as long as their audience is engaged, the blogger or influencer fits closely with your brand, they fit with your brand standard, and those are really some of the key things that we look at, rather than simply huge audiences. So we've talked a little bit about it. Why use influencers? And I always love looking at this stat. 14% of people trust ads, yet 70% of people trust consumer recommendations. That's always an interesting one to me, because we really want to utilize influencers to help amplify our message, to help give credibility to our message, to help the brand become personal, to help the brand become human. And so that's one of the key reasons why we recommend partnering with influencers. I want to bring in another case study or example to help drive home how working with influencers can help you make your brand more human, more accessible. So there's a stroller company out there. It's called Bugaboo, and from the outside they're kind of cool looking, but they may look fairly similar to the other kind of generic strollers that you'll find out there at Walmart or Target. But they are very different. Their price point is significantly higher than what you'd see with many strollers out there. And so from just the brand going out there and saying, hey, we make great strollers and we're going to charge you $1,000 for this stroller, that message won't always stick with a lot of people. And so what Bugaboo has done is they've done a really outstanding job of partnering with key social influencers to help spread their message in a more authentic way. So you see Bugaboo has some screenshots or screen caps of Instagram. Bugaboo has roughly 19,000 followers on Instagram, which is great. But what they've done is partnered with various key influential parenting bloggers and Instagrammers to help promote their product. So they partnered recently with Taza, who is a key blogger and Instagrammer, and gave her a stroller, and she tried it out and had a great time and posted about it. And you can see there, her post had 167 comments on Instagram, over 12,000 likes on Instagram, and more than just those metrics, it definitely also drove people back to the Bugaboo Instagram page as well. But more than that, it helped her audience see these strollers as something that are recommended, something that's cool, something that is potentially worthy of spending that amount of money on. And Bugaboo has just done a great job of identifying the right individuals who match their brand, who match their customer, finding the individuals that their customers follow and care about, and then partnering with those people to help drive consumer thought. So this next slide is a chart. So we're going to bring back our Kimmy K, and in looking at this, the size of the bubble or the size of the circle is representative of her audience. So she has a massive audience on Twitter, massive audience on Instagram. But yet to partner with her is going to be a significant amount of money. Yet her influence for your brand is likely very low, even though she has a large audience. If your brand is X, it's likely very low. Likely only a very small percentage of her followers actually care about your brand. What we instead advocate is partnering with individuals whose price is significantly lower. And you'll find that, whereas working with someone like Kim Kardashian may put you behind 250 grand, partnering with some of these influencers that we work with are somewhere in the $100 to $1,000 range to partner with. Although their audience is significantly smaller in total number, the percentage of their audience that cares about your product is significantly higher. What that allows us to do is partner with various influencers that will, in effect, very easily, for significantly less money, allow us to have a greater impact on a greater number of people who actually care about our brand than it would be to partner with a big celebrity-type influencer. And this really is the secret sauce. This is where influencer marketing becomes very successful, or when you can scale your efforts to work with various influencers who have audiences that care about your brand. Another reason to work with influencers, it allows you to have a presence on emerging platforms. And I hesitate to put some of these still under the emerging platform realm, but we know that it can be very difficult to maintain an active presence on new platforms. It takes a lot of resources to have a content calendar, to have your content strategy out, to make sure that you're actively monitoring and posting on these platforms. And so it may not always make sense for you to be active on every single platform that's out there. And we understand that. But the reality is, even if your brand isn't active on an emerging platform, your customers are. And you need to be there. You need to have some sort of presence. And even if it's not an official presence, you can use your influencers, or you can use influencer partnerships to have a presence. And this is where you can really help extend the reach of your brand by partnering with individuals who have created audiences on these emerging platforms. They've taken the time and the effort to get there, and you can help leverage those audiences by using influencer partnerships. Another way that you can use influencers, and we've done this for our clients, is use them to gain valuable insight. Some of the things that influencers really enjoy doing is partnering with brands to give feedback, especially if they are advocates of your brand. And that's one of the goals of influencer marketing, is partnering with people and hopefully moving them along the journey to advocacy. Though they may not be initial advocates of your brand, continued partnership and relationship building with them, you hope to get them to that point. But recently we hosted a meetup with influencers from one of the brands that we work with. We brought 65 of them into a conference room, had a really great experience where we showed them up-and-coming new initiatives. We gave them sneak peek access to different things that were coming out. And then we spent some time talking to them about what they would love to see from us, how we could partner with them, how we could make their lives easier. And then we asked them some very specific questions about our brand. And we got some feedback, some really, really valuable feedback from them about how we can move our brand forward, about how we can position new products that make sense for them and their audiences. So it was a huge, huge success for us to be able to leverage the collective wisdom of this highly influential group. And they really enjoyed being able to participate in that. So from here, I want to go into a few more examples. I know that I learned well from looking at use case scenarios of how this is being used out there, so I'm going to cruise through some of these. At the beginning, Mike had mentioned BYU TV. So last year, BYU TV came to us and they said, hey, we have created our first original scripted drama. We put a lot of money into it, and we don't have a huge traditional marketing budget to promote this TV show. We can do it a little bit, a few commercials on our own channel, but other than that, we need to do it through social. And so rather than just paying a bunch of money to Facebook, which we certainly did have a paid media support behind it, but what we did is we identified influencers from around the country who make sense for a TV show like this. So it's not like we just went to TV show reviewers and said, hey, this is a new TV show that's coming out, will you review it? We didn't want that to happen. What we did is we partnered with key style influencers, key parenting influencers, key food influencers, and what we did is we had them take a look at the show through their lens. So we had them write according to what they're passionate about. So if this show was set in the early 1960s, and so for the style influencers, we had them write about 1960s fashion. For the food influencers, we had them write about casseroles, right, or different food inspired from the 1960s. For family or parenting bloggers, we had them talk about family time and getting the family together to watch a TV show that was appropriate for all ages. And we had a really, incredible outcome from this, as their audiences really connected. We had a unique way of approaching them too. What we did is we put together these care packages that were 1960s themed. So you see some of the glasses, the apron, some vintage candy, and these influencers just were blown away by this, from the creativity. They Instagrammed it, they talked about it, and it really made it a fun campaign rather than just, well, I'm going to watch this TV show and write about it. We also provided them with a Roku HD, which allowed them to watch the BYU TV channel, which is a channel on there as well, and it really ended up being a very successful campaign. So this is just an example of one of the bloggers who wrote or who created a recipe based from that and posted to Pinterest, and since then it's had over 5,000 repins. Something that I want to bring up here too, that's the benefit of working with influencers, is it's not a flash in the pan type thing. Once their blog post or Instagram or tweet it goes up, and specifically on the blog side, that lives online. That has SEO value. That has a lifelong past the campaign that you are running. Obviously, this post is still up. We're still getting mentions back to the TV show from this post. From here, I want to talk about Mercedes. Mercedes-Benz, I saw the value of Instagram influencers, and they were releasing this new Mercedes-Benz CLA that was really priced at in such a way that it was priced towards more the millennial audience. And so what they did is they partnered with 5 really influential Instagrammers, and they gave them the Mercedes to drive around for a week and take photos. And so they didn't force them to do this huge write-up about the car and how cool it was. All they did was drive around, take the photos that they would normally take and share with their audience, but they included the car in the photo. And they got people talking. They got people talking in a much better way than if Mercedes were just to put a sponsored post up on Instagram and get a whole bunch of negative comments because they're filling people's feed with something they didn't want to follow. Something unique that Mercedes did as well is they had a user element of it as well, where they had users submit reasons why they should take a road trip. And so you see that Nicoletta individual, where she was on Instagram and was posting about what she would do with this car, and she ended up getting the experience and opportunity to drive around the car as well, which was pretty neat, because it really extended the campaign beyond simply these 5 influencers, but it really extended out to all the brand advocates as well. And one of my favorite examples, and one of the best companies out there who are using influencer marketing, is Taco Bell. They've really figured out this whole influencer thing, and they're doing a fantastic job with it. They understand their audience, and their audience in a big way are millennials. And so they understand that we need to connect with these people. And so what they did to help release the new Doritos Loco Taco back in September of last year, they went to a big YouTube conference called VidCon in August. They partnered up with various YouTubers out there to create commercials. And so, like it says here from Ad Age, they created 65 different commercials that these YouTubers submitted. They're very passionate about Taco Bell, and they posted it up to their channels, and it got significantly more views and engagement than Taco Bell ever would have hoped to have, even with putting a whole ton of money behind it. So they asked these individuals to create these commercials. They had some prizes. They also had some compensations and different things like that, but a significantly smaller budget than what they would have had if they were trying to push as much advocacy through, or as many views through their own efforts. So another example of Taco Bell continuing to do a good job with it. Many of you may know that Taco Bell is releasing their new breakfast menu, which sounds interesting to say the least. But they have seen this whole influencer marketing thing work. And so tomorrow, actually, on the 27th, breakfast is coming. And so what they did is they identified 1,000 influencers who they know are influential to the people who are their customers. And what they did is they sent them through the mail these breakfast phones. And so they're kind of like a burner phone, right? They bought these Samsung phones, loaded them with some prepaid minutes, and sent it out to these influencers. It's not like they asked them beforehand. They sent it out and have been sending them tweets or not tweets, but text messages, and have been calling them and giving these influencers challenges. And these challenges, range from just all kinds of different crazy things. But it's keeping this influencer community talking about them in a big way. They're excited about it. It's different. It's weird. Seth Godin always talks about embrace the weird. And there's some great things within influencer marketing that allows you to do that, because the influencers want to do something that's unexpected. They want to do something that's different. And some of the prizes for this campaign are really odd. Taco-themed bed sheets and pajamas and all kinds of different things like that. But it's really becoming a massive tsunami, if you will, across the social sphere. And Taco Bell has just done a great job with that. So some takeaways from what we learned from Taco Bell's influencer marketing efforts is that they understand their customer. They understand what their customer cares about. They understand who their customer follows and reads. They, like I said, they embrace the weird. They do something different. They do something that's unexpected, because that's, again, goes back to what their customers care about. They aren't afraid to try new approaches. The way that they started this campaign was on Snapchat. So they Snapchatted out to a lot of influencers and got this kind of seeded out there. So this is something that a lot of marketers aren't even touching. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. They thrive on authenticity. Taco Bell's not out there saying, through these channels saying, hey, our tacos are so fantastic. They're relying on these influencers to talk about how fantastic things are. And their campaigns breed advocacy. These 1,000 influencers that they're partnering with right now are quite likely feel special that they're one of the individuals that was selected. They're really creating advocates out of this group rather than just going after them, buying some ad space or buying a sponsored video on their channel. They're creating relationships with these individuals. So these are some key takeaways from Taco Bell that I wanted to share with you and chat about. So a lot of people ask, well, so this is great, Tyler. We just talked about Taco Bell, and I'm sure they're spending some money on this campaign. Definitely nowhere near what they would on on TV ads and TV time and different things like that. But we always have to look back at ROI. What is the ROI on working influencer marketing? And it really goes back to a lot of times some of the difficulties we have with measuring the ROI of social, just in general. In the ROI, the R is often referred to as the black sheep. The O and the I are easy to quantify. We know how much we've invested, but the return is what's difficult, right? And that's where things get a little bit fudged, just a little bit different. And so I want to talk through some of the things that we look at here at Sitewire when we're measuring the ROI of our influencer campaigns. We start with clearly defining our objectives. What do we want this campaign to do? Do we want it to generate leads? Do we want it to result in an increase in social mentions? Do we want it to grow our fan or follower base on certain social networks? Do we want audience engagement? So are we really gauging success? What are our success metrics? Are we gauging success on how many comments we have, or how many retweets we have, or any of those sort of metrics? How many likes we have? Are we gauging success on site traffic? Are we using a call to action that's bringing back to the site, and we want to really gauge our success based upon how many people hit our site from this campaign? And are we looking at sales, right? Is it something that we're able to directly attribute our efforts back to sales? And for e-commerce companies, it's a lot easier to do than for other companies. For some of our clients, they don't direct back to sales at all. Some of our clients are focused more on our nonprofits, and they just want to have awareness out there. And so certainly there are various metrics we can look at, but that's really where it starts, is identifying our key objectives, and then we can move from there. So what or how to track? Like I was mentioning, we look at audience engagement. So how many shares, likes, retweets, repins, comments. We track all of that and report back on that. website visitor tracking. This is something that's absolutely critical when we're partnering with individuals like bloggers and people on Twitter. We want to show a direct attribution back to how much traffic was driven from this campaign. Click-through rates on calls to action. In nearly every influencer campaign we run, we have some sort of call to action, and we look at what the click-through rates are on those. And then using a mix of gated and non-gated content. And so this can be different depending upon what you're running, but in looking at gated, and just to define that, and maybe defining something doesn't need to be defined, but with gated, that means that you either have to like something to move forward with an app or something on Facebook, or you need to put a name and email address in to get a white paper or some sort of download, or to access some sort of webinar or anything like that. And I'm certainly not advocating for always doing gated content. You can see a drop-off in engagement, but having a mix of both gated and non-gated content that allows you to track success from these campaigns. Increase in fan or follower growth, and then we always use trackable links and trackable URLs, whether that's through a service like Bitly or just going back into the Omniture data or whatever it is that you use. But we go back and identify over the course of that campaign that we're running what was driven, how much traffic was driven, and this enables us to get significantly closer to ROI, to determining the ROI and really the earned media value. As is known, it's difficult within the social space to measure these things. I mean, just like has been for years and years, how do you measure the ROI on a billboard in Times Square or any piece like that? But with the rise of digital, we've been able to measure these things in a lot better ways. This is something that was pulled from the Augur Influencer Marketing Stats report that was just published a couple of weeks back. It was here in February. And they asked individuals, and this is a survey of 800 marketing folks from around the world. They said, how much of your overall budget is spent on influencer marketing? And some of the key things that were pulled out of there, individuals today, 48% of individuals say that 1 to 20% of their marketing budgets are spent on influencer marketing. People are doing it. People are doing it in a big way. But what I really liked as well was the secondary question that says, where is it going? Right? Where's your spend going? And 44% indicated that their spend is going to be increased. They're seeing value. I know here at Sitewire we've seen value. Our clients have seen value. It's an inexpensive way to get a significant amount of engagement and of authenticity, and it really helps drive whatever those objectives were. So how do we start, or how do you start? If you're doing it already, that's fantastic. Hopefully we've provided some things here today that have got you thinking. If you're not, here are some ways that you can get started. You first need to identify, well, even before this, right, so I'm gonna go back a little. Even before identifying influencers, you need to identify that there's a need, right? We went back to that. What is my marketing problem? What is it I need to do? And you identify that, and from there we can see, hey, can influencer marketing or can working with influencers help solve this problem? If I've identified that yes, it can, based upon some of those things we talked about, then we go into this process. We identify influencers. So this starts, like I said, with understanding your customer, understanding what they care about, who they read, who they follow, and that allows you to go back in and find the right kind of people. There are tools out there that help with this. From the blog world, we here at Sitewire use a tool called GroupHigh, and it's done a great job for us of helping us find the right kind of individuals. But there are various companies out there that do a really, really good job of helping you identify the right kind of individuals. It can be done manually as well, but there are just a lot of great tools out there that help with that as well. Marketing to influencers is going to be your next key step. So the influencers that you want to work with need to understand who you are. Right? It's not just a given that you say, hey, I found these people, so I'm going to work with them, and they're going to want to work with me. There's some work that is taken from the point that you create your campaign or you create your initial outreach to then getting them to say, yes, I want to work with you. And that's where we get into some of the more traditional PR pieces, right? You need to read what they post, and you understand who they are. You understand what motivates them, what they care about. you know, you don't just want to throw money at them. That's not going to help. That's not going to help anything. You need to make sure that they're the right fit for you, and that you're the right fit for them. You also need to market, then market through influencers. So you, like we've been talking about, you use them to help increase your awareness among your specific target market. And then that last piece of marketing with influencers, or turning them into advocates of your brand. So they don't initially start as advocates of your brand. That's a great way to identify influencers from the beginning, or finding those power users, finding those people who both have audience and already love your brand. That's a fantastic place to start because your work's a lot easier. But in order to scale, you're going to need to do some of the other things as well. So even breaking that down a little bit more simply, like I was mentioning, you need to determine how influencers can help you, find the right people, give them something to talk about. Because ultimately, the way that what a lot of times what influencers value are having access to information, being trendsetters, having access to information that other people don't have, being able to tell their communities about things that are new, that are exciting, that they feel are valuable. You need to play by the house rules. This isn't an ad buy. You're not just buying an ad when you're working with influencers. You need to understand that you're going to have to give up some control. And that scares people. I know some of the brands that we've worked with, we've really had to work with them to get buy-off, because your message, once it goes out there, is not going to be completely tightly controlled like you would be in a press release, like you would be in an ad, like you would be in some sort of sponsored content that you wrote. You have to play by the house rules. They write in their style. They photograph in their style. They talk about your brand in their style. And you need to be comfortable with that. That's why the homework starts at the beginning, really vetting the person out and making sure that they are the right fit for your brand. Certainly there are things you can do from an agreement standpoint, to kind of have some contracts and things, but you don't want to push it too hard, or else they're not going to want to work with you. You need to share the love. Influencers, a lot of the things that they care about as well is growing their audience. And so if you can support them by sharing their content on your channel, or once they post something about you, you retweet it or you share it on your channel as well, they will love you, and they are much more likely to work with you because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And then, like we were just talking about, measure results. You can't just do this and hope it's working, or think it's working, or think it's not working. You need to know what's really working. You need to set your objectives and then measure your objectives. And then survey your influencers. This is huge for all of our brands, all of our clients. The influencers that we partner with, we survey them regularly. We ask them what we could be doing better, what they like about what we do, other brands that they've worked with and what worked well there. We get their feedback constantly, and that helps strengthen the relationship that we have between us and them. So the way that we look at influencers here when we're identifying people, we look at three key things: the reach that they have, the relevance that they have towards our brand or our client, and how much they resonate with their audience. And they can't just have one of those things, right? They have to have all three there, and that's where the magic happens, is when we find individuals that have significant reach, that are relevant to what we're trying to talk about, and that their messages resonate with their audience engages. We also split influencers into three groups: the top tier, which are very large influencers, huge audiences; power middle, which is where we spend most of our time. I'm going to talk about this here in a second. And then brand advocates. And these are individuals who, brand advocates can be top tier and power middle influencers as well. But brand advocates are your engaged fans, your individuals who already love your brand and are huge advocates for your brand. So the power middle, why do we care about them? We love them because they are significantly easier to work with. The huge, large influencers have a lot more barriers, a lot more expensive to work with. These influencers, these power middle, we love them because there's a lot of them out there. They're less expensive to work with, and their audiences are typically significantly more engaged. They're seen as peers, and so that they're often seen as more influential, even in some of the large influencers. This goes back to the Augur influencer report that I was talking about before. What do influencers expect from you? And I love looking at this because these are a lot of the things that we do. These are within influencer marketing, we give them exclusive info or sneak peek info, monetary rewards. Some people will say, hey, you should never pay influencers. We are completely in the camp that that's not the way that we operate. We do advocate for paying your influencers when it makes sense. They've obviously built up audience. They have expenses. They're not doing this simply for free. And so there is a time and place. Now, it's not just simply buying, a post. You want to build relationships and build continuing relationships, but there is value in spending money with them. Invitations to events. Events are huge. These individuals love getting together. Face-to-face events, I know for us, have increased our ability to work with our key influencers in such a huge way. And then supporting content creation. This is something that if you can provide them the content, or you provide them monetary compensation that allows them to create some great content, that's where they really feel value and see value. So, you say, well, okay, I want to work with these people. What's the likelihood that they're actually going to respond to my email? And this is something that Rand Fishkin put together, Rand Fishkin of Moz. And I love this little formula he put together, and it's pretty exciting. So what you have to do in order to get their amplification, to get influencers talking about you, you need to be relevant to their audience. You need to bring value, right? Like we were just talking about, you need to bring value to their personal brand. If you're not aligned with their personal brand and your product's not, they're not going to want to work with you. There needs to be opportunity to earn extra amplification. So this goes back to where I was talking about if you as a brand can retweet them or can have some way of connecting them with other individuals that can give them extra amplification. Do you benefit their goals and beliefs? So that again goes back to identifying the right people and making sure that that what you're trying to do in your brand helps further what they stand for and what their kind of platform is. And then looking at the quality of the outreach and or multiplied by the personal relationship or connection you have. This goes back to some of the traditional rules of great PR. Understanding personalized outreach. We don't do mass templated emails to influencers ever. That is a huge no-no. You've got to personalize your communication with the people you want to work with. And then relationships that you've built, obviously just like anything that we do, play a huge, huge role. So these things, all of these things together really significantly increase the likelihood that an influencer will want to work with you. So in wrapping it up, some of the key best practices, you need to be authentic. People work with people. This is huge in this space. You're not buying ads. You're working with people. And if you're not authentic, if you're corporate, if you're just talking like a brand and it's all about you, you are not going to succeed in influencer marketing. You need to spend time building relationships. If you can't do that or you're not dedicated to do that, you don't have the time to do that, influencer marketing is not the right thing for you. It takes work, it takes effort, but the dividends it can pay off are significant. It's more than just blogger outreach. I've heard of blogger outreach and blogger relations over the past several years. That's only one part right there. Like we talked about, there are all the other channels that are out there. There's other places on the internet. It's not just internet too. There are off-site events and different things like that. It's a lot more than just blogger outreach. You also need to set clear objectives and measure and track your success. If you don't do that, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you're doing it. You need to set those objectives from the beginning, and then you need to make sure you're measuring your success. And then you need to ask for feedback. You're never going to get better. We've done that as we've been executing a lot of influencer events here at Sitewire. We constantly ask for feedback, constantly improve our ability to work with them, and it's really paying off huge dividends for us. So going back to that slide that we talked about at the beginning, these are challenges that you likely have as a marketer, right? You likely have these sorts of challenges, and hopefully today as we've gone through, and obviously I've just scratched the surface in influencer marketing, there's so much to talk about, but hopefully you can see how partnering with these individuals can help you accomplish these, or help you solve some of these problems. They can, when you have great advocates that are influential in the community and you have a crisis that's coming or that's happening, a lot of times these individuals step up to defend you in a big way, and we've seen that with different brands. They grow brand awareness and perception. They can generate better leads because the people who they're sending over already know that that individual recommends your product, and so your lead is much more qualified. There are a lot of things that influencer marketing does that allows you to solve these challenges. So in looking at all this, if you're not already doing it, I want you to start thinking about it. I want you to feel free to shoot me an email if you have any other questions about it. But I want you to start thinking about influencer marketing and how adding some of these elements can really help solve some of your marketing problems. Thank you. And now I'll open up for any questions.
Thanks, Tyler. That was fantastic. We do have a few questions here. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the question pane. But let's get started with what we've got here already. So people are influencer marketing, obviously, it's going to be less expensive than tackling a celebrity, trying to bring them on board. And you mentioned that some people like to get paid and that others, they have different ways that they want to be compensated, whether it's content creation or what have you. But what are some of the, what can we expect? What are some of the upfront costs of influencer marketing? What can we, if we want to take this to our boss, what should we plan on getting ourselves into as far as upfront costs?
You bet. So it's going to depend upon your organization, but initially where we start is with strategy, right? We go back and identify what we're wanting to accomplish, how we're aligning with the overall marketing objectives for the firm, and then we start with the initial strategy of creating the campaign or whatever that outreach effort is. And so there's time and cost involved in putting that together. Obviously internal costs. But then when you're talking about external costs, where we usually come across or creating a blogger agreement, there's typically a legal fee there. It's not very significant, but you're talking about $250 or so to create a blogger or influencer agreement for the campaign. But then it really depends upon the size and scope of your campaign. So we may have a campaign where we're working with 8 to 10 bloggers, right? And a blogger, a great power middle blogger that we're working with, we're probably going to spend somewhere between $100 and $500 per blogger to partner with in a form of compensation and or product or different things like that. When you're talking about a YouTuber, that varies because there's a lot more work that goes into them creating a video or different things like that. And again, going back to someone like an Instagrammer, that varies as well. It's usually significantly less because there's a lot less work in putting together a photo. So there's a whole range of what you would pay from that standpoint. But then going back to the brand advocate standpoint, if you're engaging with the fans who already love you, their requirements are significantly less. Sometimes all they care about is access to information, right? Unique codes or unique access to cool things. It doesn't have to be monetary. There can be unique new trials of something that's coming out or different things like that. So we'll see a campaign that can run from a $2,500 very small campaign up to very, very large campaigns that are working with some of the top YouTubers out there, and so you're looking at $100,000. But it all depends upon what you're trying to do and the size, scale, and scope of your campaign. So hopefully that helped.
Yeah, I think so. I think that answered the question. The next one is how do you measure someone's site traffic? And I think they're referring to how you said you can identify the power middle by 2,500 to 25,000 unique visits on a monthly basis to their website. We have a question on how do you do that exactly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple ways. When it's a blogger like that, quite often the larger bloggers will have media kits where they'll pull from their Google Analytics and they'll send that to you so you can have a detailed snapshot of their monthly unique visitors, monthly total visitors, and things like that. There's also a tool, like I mentioned, that we use that's called GroupHigh. And GroupHigh is a fantastic resource for bloggers, not so much for Instagrammers and YouTubers and such, but for bloggers specifically. And it pulls data from compete.com and gives us insight into their site traffic, and it aggregates all of their social following together, so we can see how many followers they have on Pinterest and on Twitter and on Instagram and such. So yeah, partnering with the influencer specifically and requesting their media kit or requesting information from them, or using a tool like GroupHi.
Okay, perfect. And then how would this apply to B2B? There's a lot of B2C examples here. Is this something that works well in the B2B marketing space?
Yes, it's a different world when we're working with B2B, and I'm glad that someone asked that, because right now we're putting together actually some work for a couple of our B2B clients, some influencer work, and it's certainly different, but the reality is you start with the same principles. You look at who are the buyers, or who is your customer in that B2B world. Who do they read? What do they care about? There are going to be individuals that they care about that are influential in that space. So if it's internet security software that's sold strictly to businesses, there are going to be individuals on Twitter, in the blogger world, in the just across the social sphere that they care about. There's also other just internal stakeholders that may not have huge social presences in the B2B world. They may be their social audience may be similar to any one of us normal people, but they are highly influential. People care about them. They're key stakeholders within a company. And so there's some unique things that you can do to try to find those people and go after them. You've really got to do something that's a little bit odd and a little bit weird, I think, in order to get them talking about you. Cisco did some fun things not too long ago. Well, I guess it was a little while ago now, but they put together a fun campaign around Valentine's Day, and they had this whole thing about give your sweetheart a mainframe, and it was this cheesy video about giving your significant other a mainframe computer, which is just obviously ludicrous, but it spread like crazy throughout the influencers within that community because it was hilarious. Nobody talks to those people. So within the B2B space, I think there's actually a lot of opportunity because you don't have a lot of B2C type brands that are competing for the same influential people.
Got it. That's great. Well, those are great answers and fantastic presentation, Tyler. We're going to wrap it up. We're reaching the top of the hour. Is there anything you'd like to say to close things up?
I appreciate the opportunity. I thank the audience for being here today, and definitely feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or over email if you have any additional questions. And Mike, just thank you all for the opportunity today.
Thank you, Tyler. It was fantastic. And everyone, this will be posted tomorrow on our website, logmycalls.com/webinar-series. You'll be able to find a recording there. And also, just as a reminder, you can find the chatter about this at #LMCwebinar. And then tomorrow we have another webinar with Jesse Robluski from Generations Beyond. It's going to be about client connectivity and how to really connect to your clients and generate new leads by building those relationships. But for influencer marketing today, we thank Tyler Farnsworth and Sitewire. It's been fantastic, and everyone have a fantastic afternoon. Thank you.